All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Rise Urban Nation podcast, where we dive into deep stories and strategies of Black entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Taryell Simmons, and today we got the incredible guest, Brianna Régine Walston. Did I say it? Did I say it right? Did I get it
Brianna
right?
Régine Walston. It's like Régine from Living Single. It's like her.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
Régine. Okay, all right. Because I saw the accent and all that good stuff. So I was like, oh man, I should have asked her how to say the middle name so I could put some respect on her name.
Listen, don't worry. I'm big on names, and sometimes you botch them, but as long as you're like, did I say that right? That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
I appreciate that. CEO and founder of BRVC and the 2023 Young Entrepreneur of the Year. I got to give you your props on that. I can't wait to hear how the whole event went. I know it was last year, but I want to give people their flowers whenever I can, give them a chance to get their flowers.
Thank you.
And we're here to really talk about navigating challenges, turning passion into profit. Brianna, it's an honor to have you here with us today. How are you?
Thank you. No, I love that introduction. It's an honor to be here. You know, you are my first podcast episode of 2024, my first interview of 2024.
Let's get it.
So this is a blessing, and it's always interesting to be on the other side of, typically in my role, sometimes when I do PR, I'm facilitating the interviews and like coordinating them and making them happen. So whenever I get to be, the special guest and share my story and, just hopefully inspire someone to make it do what it do. I don't take that for granted. So I'm excited to be here.
So we're excited to have you. So first, because I want to go back and, because before I had this episode with you, I have another co-host that we did a reflection episode towards the end of the year to kind of close out. And I got to reflect on all the wins and so forth from last year. Congratulations, the recent accolade. What does that award mean to you, and how has it influenced you throughout your journey, especially now that you got that far?
Yeah. So the 2023, Young Entrepreneur of the Year award, it was given by the Small Business Association in Connecticut, which is where I'm based. And that was an award that my team was like, hey, this opportunity is really great. Or I sent it to them, one of the two. I was like, hey, look, if this year is all about elevating and generating our own awareness and really solidifying our credibility, which is what I do for my clients, I said, let's just see what happens. And it wasn't the kind of award where you have to submit in a payment to apply or anything like that. You actually have to curate and craft and show your milestones, your achievements, what you've done, how you've grown, right? That award is significant in particular because there was a section where you had to get recommendations. And the people that recommended me, not only outside BRVC, but my team too. When I got the award and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, they submitted it. I read what other people had to say about me, and I was like, wow. I was that TikTok or that meme where it's like,
that girl?
Wow. Yeah.
That's me, Delilah. That's me, Delilah.
It's always nice to just know that the intentionality behind why I do the things that I do and how I want to be of service and give opportunities to others. It's nice to know that that is exactly how it's received and then some. And that's partially why winning that award was so meaningful. But another part of it, and if you go on my Instagram, you'll see the speech where I'm like, oh my God. My parents were there. My parents and one of my brothers attended, and I dedicated the award to them. Because really they have instilled so much grind in me, and I'm the oldest of 4. So I feel like when you're the oldest, you kind of you're the test run in a way.
I didn't know you was the oldest. I'm the oldest too.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. And so I feel like when you're the oldest, you kind of, especially for my parents, I have young parents. And so you reach a phase in your life, at least for me, where you're like, oh shoot, like y'all sacrifice a lot. Like where I am now in my age, when y'all were my age, y'all had that, and this, and still were able to pull all of it off. So, and they believed in me. They believed in me, and they always have. They always believe in their kids. When I thought I was going to be Beyonce, I was in dance classes. I took piano. I was in singing classes. Like they believe in their kids, and so I dedicated that award to them because, you know, the past 7 years, I would not be where I am without them. So,
shout out to mom and dad. Shout out to mom and dad. We was talking about mom and dad before I pressed record and all the audience got here with us. We was talking about, man, I didn't know we had so many similarities. So we both born in New York. We both got a little of that little hustle and grind from our parents and us, that we're both the oldest. Like, man, I didn't know we had so much in common until we started having this conversation. So shout out to mom and dad for just believing in you, installing all that, and that grit, that grind, that character. It truly makes a difference. And I think now when our parents look at us and seeing us and all the wins that we have, like we're their wildest dreams. Like it's like, man, because I feel like where I'm at now in life, you know, I have surpassed everything that probably they wished for me and they provided for us at this stage in life. And so shout out to mom and dad.
Shout out to the parents.
Shout out to the parents. Shout out to the parents. All right. As you said earlier in the podcast, it's a new year. I'm the first of the year, and being at the top of the 2024, you know, everybody's strategizing now, looking at the market. How can I fit in or get in where I fit in? So let's just dive right into the meat of our discussion. I know that's your bread and butter, that's your thing. So when you think about 2024 and Black entrepreneurship, what strategies would you recommend for Black entrepreneurs striving to stand out in this, what I feel like is a competitive market?
Yeah. That's a good question. I literally just had 2 coaching calls today, where I'm helping them do exactly that. Because one client is in the hair care industry and the other one has like a candle company, both arguably saturated. Even with me, like I describe myself as a brand growth strategist. And although I am unique in the way that I do that, like I do marketing and communications, but I also have operations management because I believe it's holistic when it comes to brand growth. And in that way, that model makes me different, but there are a lot of other agencies that are doing exactly what it is that I am. So it may sound cliche, but probably like the number one strategy above all the technical stuff is mindset. Like you have to know that you have a spot to fill, and that you deserve to do what you set your mind to do, right? And part of that mindset is also it is being self-aware, but it's also curating a support system that you can lean on to remind you of your greatness, because entrepreneurship is super lonely. I don't care how you cut it. It's very lonely. And so mindset is everything, and faith. Ooh, child.
Yeah. You know, I feel you speaking my language right now, because I feel like so many times we people get on the internet and these young folks, they see like all the glitz, the glamour, all of the successful outcomes, not knowing the story and the journey of what it took for that person to get there. And I sometimes I feel like we do a disservice by just always glamorizing and showcasing all the wins, but not being realistic about like what it took to get to that win and some of the bumps in the road. And being honest that, you know, sometimes the failure is the best thing you can have to help that growth. Like some people fail and they quit, but you know, it's getting past that failure, which you know speaks to something that you often speak to, which is resilience as being key in business. Can you tell us about like a major challenge you faced and how you overcame it?
Mm. Child, how long do we have? Okay, so every time I do an interview or anytime I'm moderating a panel, or I don't know, I just know that whatever I'm saying, it's gonna reach people. Lately, what I've been doing, particularly since last year, where my relationship with God has improved immensely.
Mm.
I sort of do like an internal prayer of like, just use me, use me, use me. Like whatever you want me to say, just
Mhm.
work through me and let me say it. And it's so interesting that you talk about failures and the importance of sharing that. So, ooh-cha, give me strength. So last year, so last year was my hardest year in business.
Yeah.
I will officially be 7 years in business on February 6th.
Congratulations.
Yeah, at least that's the birthday anyway. I started my
Yeah.
business in December of 2016, so technically we are already 7, but to the public, February 6th is our birthday, right?
Okay.
So it's so interesting that year 6 was my hardest year in business. I did not feel year 1, year 5 was, year 6 was. And I actually documented why it was so hard, and it was so hard financially. It was
Mm.
hard. Um and it tested me because I was trying to make payroll with my team. And I did so good for like 12 months, November 2022 to November 2023. And then one of the payrolls, I was like, guys, here's the tea. All year I've been a magician. Oh, God has been a magician. Let me correct myself.
Mhm.
God has made things happen for y'all, but I can't sit here on another payday and stress myself out about where's this money going to come from. You're going to get it. You're going to get paid. But
Mhm.
let me pull back the curtain a little bit. And the
Mhm.
accounts receivable, it ain't here yet, bruh. So you got to wait until it comes. And for those that don't have accounts in your particular department, you're on pause. I can't do it. I
Mhm.
can't do it anymore. Um, and I have been holding on to this content
Mhm.
because I'm like, okay, well, I will release it when I feel like I'm 100% in the clear. And I want to release it in a certain
Mm.
way, you know. But all of last year, particularly now, since I'm like, okay, what's my marketing going to look like this year? There's a pit in my stomach that's like content, 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 content. That's all I keep
Mhm.
hearing is content, 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 content. And I have all this content, but it's the
Mhm.
hesitancy of like this. There's some vulnerable ish in here.
Yeah.
Um, and I know when I put it out there, it's gonna be refreshing to see, because to your
Mm.
point, there's so much stuff on social media now that it's glamorized. Like make 10K, in a month
Yeah.
and 30 days, or I'm not working a nine
Mhm.
to five anymore because I decided to sell ebooks. Now I'm in digital marketing now. Like it's all this amazing, like punchy stuff that gets your attention, but it doesn't show what happens when you're riding that wave and the wave, it ain't waving no more.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing where a lot of people are like, yeah, I have a 6-figure company, this is awesome. Let's talk about that profit and loss statement. Let's pull out those
Mhm.
receipts. What's that
Yeah.
margin looking like? Right? So it's part of the picture. um
Mhm.
but there's beauty in showing your failures. And for me, I don't know when this episode, plans to come out, but there's a reason why we've kind of been quiet on social, because
Mhm.
one, I want the content to be elevated and look a particular way, being that we're going into year 7. But
Mhm.
two, as you go and grow in your journey as an entrepreneur, it's going to test you personally. And as you go
Mhm.
personally, is going to test your business. They're very interconnected. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Business isn't personal. Don't work in entrepreneurship. I'm sorry. It doesn't work, because you'll constantly have to decipher and make decisions with acknowledging this is how I feel about the situation. This is the
Uh-huh.
reality of the situation. Now, what's the middle ground? How am I gonna respond and make a decision? Um,
Right.
so yeah, man, it'll come out at some point, but don't be afraid to share your failures. And don't be
Uh-huh.
afraid to show the journey while you're still trying to get
But
to the next step. So,
yeah,
no, that was a
that's a
long
beautiful
answer,
thing.
but
No, that's
yeah.
but that's you kept it real, and I love that you kept it real and you used a little bit of vulnerability and shared your story in there because
Mhm.
that like somebody is going to resonate and connect with that because there's so many of us that's just stuck um because of whether it be perfectionism or the idea of
Mhm.
what we want to do or we've been trapped in this story that we have, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, so I mean even me with starting this podcast, I was trapped in this
Mhm.
story and then felt it had to look a certain way, had to be a certain way. I ain't got the money yet and I got this and
Mhm.
I had every excuse in the world, and then
Mhm.
somebody just told me like, yo, you just need to start, like,
Exactly.
you know, at some point every entrepreneur in their journey has to walk out on faith, right? They like
Mhm.
just jump, you'll fly, right? And then as once you start going in motion and you start putting your energy into it, like the
Mhm.
things that you need in life, whether you believe in God, you spiritual,
Mhm.
Mother Earth, universe, you
Yeah.
start to attract the things that help catapult that success. So you just have to start and
Absolutely.
go.
Yeah.
And especially if you're being real and authentic, the things will start to like just show up in the world that you need to move that thing forward. And so
Yeah.
like even with this podcast, like I'm gonna get guests, I'm gonna do this, like because I mean I knew
Mhm.
some people, I had a good list to start with, but after I started it, I ain't near had to go look for a guest. Like I got all these PR agencies hit me up,
Mhm.
and somehow he provided, right. and,
Yeah.
then my
Yeah.
network started to grow, and then
Mhm.
support system started to grow, and that's pretty much how it is. And I think once you start to do it and you start to get your network and so support systems, those are so important, that I think that's pretty vital.
Yeah.
um and when you're building your network and support systems, what does that look like for you? Like how have you kind of approached building these, and what is the impact that
Yeah.
you feel they've had on your business?
I love that question. And yeah, I love that question because it has been probably one of, I haven't said this out loud before,
Uh-huh.
but okay, we'll go with it. I love that question because it's probably one of the most proudest things
Uh-huh.
that I feel good about as far as last year. Like I
Mm,
because of the like because last year was the hardest year for me in business, I had no choice but to lean on my support system in ways that I hadn't before. Mind
mm,
you, I've always had a great support system, but it really
yeah.
wasn't until 2020 where I started to realize, wait a minute, y'all have always been here, but I haven't really like leaned on y'all for real, for real. Like I haven't
Mm,
been vulnerable with y'all for real, for real. I haven't even given y'all the opportunity to be there and show up for me in the ways that
mm.
I need because I've been like this, right? Shout out to therapy, y'all. Oh my God. Uh, shout out to therapy. Yeah, therapy. Okay, so
Yeah, therapy, and I see that reflected in when you told the last story where you were talking about talking to your staff. You even leaned into your staff and allowed them to show up for you in a different way, right? Because they probably
yeah.
have some great ideas. They probably have their own network that they could have poured into this even more. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like go ahead. I didn't mean
Yeah,
to
no, you're
pause you.
fine. No, you're totally good. You're totally good. So, I think it to answer your original question, it boils down to intentionality. Um,
Mm,
that's important in business, but also just how you go about living your life. So, life is a lot easier to live when you realize that you don't have to do it by yourself.
mm,
And sometimes people feel like they're in it alone. Totally
mm,
valid. I mean, there's a lot of unfortunate trauma that's out there, right? Um,
mm,
but that aside, give yourself the grace and also hold
mm,
yourself accountable to remove
mm,
your ego and be like, I don't have the tools to navigate this on my own. So, how am I
mm.
going to curate and find my tribe so that way they can walk with me? Is it a
Yeah.
therapist? Is it leaning more on friends that I already have? Is it improving relationship with I don't know, my parents? Is it talking and being vulnerable with my parents? Like, my parents are great, so I never had to like improve my relationship with them in a sense that like, oh my God,
Right.
it was so bad. But it was more so like it was more so like am I'm an adult, and I never want them to feel like they didn't set me up for success. Like, they didn't give me the
Mm-hmm.
tools. And if there's any opinion that I ever care about, it's theirs. Right.
Yeah.
Not to the point where it cripples me, but to the point like, if I'm gonna ask anything, it's really gonna be, that's it. It's only them. That's
Yeah.
it. Those are my road dogs. Okay. So last year it took me until pretty much like about November, about the same time, where I was like, so listen, let me hold that Amex real fast because I need
I need to
whoa,
pay payroll.
I
I
need
need
that
payroll.
money. So you have to find the people that you trust to not only lean on from a mental and emotional capacity. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And you have to remove your ego of, I got it, I got it, I don't want to be perceived a certain way, to be
Yeah.
like, okay, it's uncomfortable for me to be vulnerable in this way, but imagine how much of a I don't have to hide anymore because they know what's going on,
Yeah.
and imagine how you can be poured into because you let people see where you actually are after pouring into them so much, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
it's it's amazing. And that works not only personally, but I've had clients who have turned into friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? So them knowing my situation is like, oh girl, well, 2024 we doing this, come back on. I'm like, yes. Absolutely. But imagine if I said nothing. Imagine if I was like, yeah, business is good. Business is good. It's great. Yeah, but not really.
Like,
Not really,
so,
you know? So,
one thing that resonates with me when hearing you talk, like, first going back to the shout out to therapy, because therapy is the
yeah.
only thing that can help you get to this place, and then therapy is so important when you're talking about dealing with ego, right?
Mhm.
And because don't get me wrong, sometimes you need your ego to
Yeah.
remind fools like who they messing with. Like
Listen.
when I got accolades too, but
Right.
there's a time when sometimes ego needs to be in check, and right,
Absolutely.
and if you have good therapy to understand,
Mhm.
the like when insecurities are getting the best of you and making
Mhm.
brash decisions, and ego is kind of out of check. It brings you more of that social emotional awareness. So
Mhm.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Plus one, I love to see more Black people getting therapy. We out here doing more therapy because Lord knows, child, we need it. We need it. Like
Yeah.
with everything that we go through,
Mhm.
we need therapy. Like everybody needs a little bit of therapy. So
Mhm.
thanks for inserting that and holding space for that.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course.
and then the I want to get into amplifying online visibility because that's a little bit of your bread and butter, and you're really great
Mhm.
at it. I feel like in today's digital world, online visibility is crucial.
Mhm.
What are some, I don't know, effective tactics that you've employed to amplify your brand online?
Yeah. Online visibility is crucial, for sure.
Mm,
But it's crucial in light of a bigger picture, which
mm,
is where I feel sometimes people get caught up because they put so much pressure on, I gotta be online, I gotta be online, I gotta be online, but they don't take a minute to be like, how am I gonna show up in that space? That's the part that
mm.
gets
So
that's
you can be
daunting
intentional
for them.
about how you being online,
See,
right?
because like I said, like I said, entrepreneurship is going to test you personally, and as you grow personally, it's going to test the thing that you're building in entrepreneurship. They are so interconnected, I'm telling
Yeah.
you. Okay.
But
So the how part is where people, it becomes daunting because it's like, oh well, this person they also have, I don't know, they also sell pens and I'm selling pens and they sell
Mm-hmm.
their pens like this. Like they show up online like this. So I should just show up online like that too. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. This
Mm.
buzzword authenticity,
Yeah.
it's true, right? Because authenticity, I feel like, is intentionality's cousin. But but how you show up authentically requires more thought.
Mm-hmm.
um it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I have a
Mm.
ebook on this, Say It Like You Mean It, where you not only need to tap into your why, which is common, like that's a common tactic that has been around forever. Like, what's your why? What's your reason for starting your business, right? It's your why, but it's also um the message that you want people to take away, and then how you deliver that message. And
Mm.
that requires internal work and self-awareness to say, how much authenticity am I really going to show? Prime example, let's just say corporate America, especially as Black folk, right? When we go into corporate spaces, our parents, at least us millennials and Gen Z, we are different.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. So let's just say our parents didn't have the luxury that we have to not code switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they could say, this is some boop, 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 expletive, expletive, expletive. All right. But they're not going to say it like that. Instead, they're going to say, well, I understand what you're saying. However, I think it'd be more beneficial, right? It's both things are saying this is some BS. But because of the audience in corporate, they're going to resonate with the more diplomatic, polished, rigid version. Whereas if you go to the cooler with your other Black coworker and you say this
What?
is some BS, they're gonna be like, you don't have to say no more. Say no more. I'm sold.
What? I
Right?
feel like the most they could say back in their era is like, well, if it works for you, it works for me.
Right. Exactly. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing with how you show up online, right? You could have one pen pen business, right? And their audience is, let's say it's two Black people, right? Because for the sake of
Mhm.
the podcast audience, it's two Black people, but maybe one grew up in the suburbs and another one grew up in, I don't know, a rural area. Maybe one went to a private school, one went to a public school. I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there, right? Because this is the
Yeah.
makeup of the person.
Yeah.
How they are made up is going to dictate how they choose to talk to their audience and who they attract. They're
Mm.
both selling pens, but the
Yeah.
person that maybe grew up in the suburbs versus the one that grew up in a rural area may communicate the value of the pen differently. And
Yeah.
therefore, they're going to attract someone who talks the language that they talk.
Right.
Okay. So yes, markets are oversaturated, but that's also why so many people can coexist. Look at all these damn celebrities. Every one of them got makeup, perfume, the whole lot. And they
Facts.
still
Facts.
sell how much money?
Uh-huh.
Because it's their brand. People like them, right?
Right.
If people like you probably could sell a toothpick. Okay.
Right. Now, I'm,
So
I'm over here. I'm over here thinking about that whole analogy. Like I'm like, man, if it's a black pen, it's gonna have to have some swag. I'm sorry.
it's
I don't
right,
care what type of message you
right?
sending me. It's gonna have to some swag.
Exactly. And that dictates the brand voice, the
Uh,
tonality of how you say certain things, and it rolls over into, okay, what does my website look? Because Bic, I haven't been on their website, so if I'm wrong, child, I'm wrong. Don't come for me. I ain't got the money. But Bic pens, their website may
uh,
be kind of like, okay, is to get your pen, and it's like very corporate looking. But
right.
our swagged out pens, right, may
Uh,
have, I don't know, like a hip hop tie into it, or maybe
mm,
just a Black person on the damn screen to create that representation of, no, this is for you,
yeah.
versus Bic, who may have a white person on the screen. So it's that level of intentionality that if you dial into it really well, you're able to show up online as your authentic self, because you know not only what it is that you want to say, but you know how to say it.
Gotcha.
That's probably the
Now,
main thing. I mean, I can go on from there, but
yeah,
yeah.
I'm curious as what, because I feel like in one token, in one breath, I see, especially when it comes like to American culture, like
Mhm.
in branding and marketing, it's so infused with black swag, right? To
Mm.
sell things, even if it
Mhm.
has a corporate identity, right?
Mhm.
Um, and we now that the internet and TikTok business, Instagram business. I mean, every type of online platform you can create a business on
Mhm.
nowadays. I'm wondering what are like the unique challenges for Black entrepreneurs. Like when I hear you say it, it's like it can't. I don't know if it could. Is it really the swag? Is it the communication? Is that where we have the difficulty of communication?
Mm.
And like or who we're communicating to, because I feel like somebody who has swag and has a great product, they should be able to. I mean, I could be wrong. You probably gonna correct me, right? I feel like they should be able to market to their target audience if it's the Black community. Now they might have a hard time selling it to a non-Black community if that's what they want their target audience to be.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I'm curious. Like,
Yeah.
could you discuss any specific challenges Black entrepreneurs face
Yeah,
and how they navigate these when it comes to?
I can see why you would make the conclusion that if I am a Black owned company and my target audience is the Black communities, it should be a no-brainer. Like I should be able to market like that. Um Probably one of the biggest challenges that I have even seen in my own customers is that the target audience is too broad. It's
Mm,
too broad. So Black people, we're not monolithic by any means. Hopefully that's the right
true,
word.
true. Yeah. No, that's
Right?
you very correct.
So if your audience is in the Black community, that's everyone in the Black community, which is equivalent to saying my business favors everyone, Black community, not Black community. And that is going to be really hard to sell to everybody. Really hard.
Nah.
Brings me back to my previous point. It's because of, you know, the people that you're going after. Will they have the same incentive to buy from you if they realize that, wait a minute, I don't think I really like Brianna because she grew up in the country and I grew up in the city and I just don't get her. I don't get her. Are they going to
Mm,
have incentive to buy from you if, it's 61 Mabel Lee, born in Georgia? I
mm,
don't know, right? And I'm 29, born in New York City, and I talk a certain way compared to how they talk in the South. Is it going to really connect with her? No.
mm.
Is it middle class? But then, I'm thinking that I can also capture people in upper class Black
Yeah.
communities. I don't know, right? Then it's also, those two examples, I'm breaking down examples of segmentation for target audience, right? So the demographics
Nah.
piece is typically what people tend to recite if they've done that homework. If they've gone
Nah.
beyond the I favor everyone, typically they'll be like, well, my audience, it's age, they typically make this amount of money, they work this kind of job, sex, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, all that stuff. They typically can recite that. Then if I tell them where to go look for the geography piece, they'll be
Mm.
able to go look on Instagram, wherever they look at their analytics. It's the psychological piece and the behavioral piece that where people
Ah.
fall short. If you can know why people buy the things that they do, or why they think like they do, or why they want the life that they have, why they have the life that they have, what they aspire to become, what they value, what they already believe, why they believe it, in addition to the things that they already buy, right? The choices that they already choose to invest their money in. Now you're weeding away people within the Black community, if that's who you're going after. Now it looks like a
Gotcha.
very specific person. And then it boils back to, well, how does this person articulate their problem? Word for word. And how can
Nah.
I say, I hear you. I hear your problem. I have the solution because you just told me that every time I write a pen or with a pen, it freaking bleeds. So now I say, well, guess lucky for you, this swagalicious pen here is the perfect solution to make your days brighter and cross things off your to-do list without it bleeding all over the paper. Right? And you said it just like them. You articulated the pain point just like them. And now it's like, now how the hell did they know that my frustration is that every time I write and use a pen, it freaking bleeds?
Right. Now, would I dedicate that to the narrowing down of my demographic, or is that dedicated to my vision? I feel like that's a little bit of the vision of the company. Am I wrong?
I mean, the vision of the company could be where you see yourself going, obviously. But in order to get there, you have to gather and curate the community to drive that vision forward, right? So when you're thinking about who your target audience is, you want to consider not only the demographics, but the geographics, the psychographics, and the behavioral patterns that they have. And typically, the psychographics and the behavioral patterns are the hardest pieces of data to get, because you can't quite get it because Instagram told you, or because it exists somewhere.
The Instagram point, because it's not to play devil's advocate. I feel like the Instagram point
go for it.
or the market is an important piece because it's market trends. So I mean, how do you balance that with market trends, like staying true to your vision while adapting the market trends?
Yeah, it's about seeing the trends that you like and then saying, okay, I like that they are, well, some people don't like dancing. I've talked to clients that are like, I'm not dancing for any reel or any TikTok. And that's okay, because that's not authentic to you. So if you're not going to dance, are you at least willing to use the trending song to then show your value, right? Like it's about picking and choosing what it is that works for you to remain in your authenticity while also still not being naive to the game that you're playing.
Gotcha.
If it matters to you that much, that's the small print. if it matters to you that much, because there are some people that are like, this is just really fun for me, and I just want it to always be fun, and that's it. So if it matters to you that much, you gotta play. Yeah, if it matters to you that much, you gotta play. Whether you're black or not, you gotta play the game to win. But when you're intentional and when you're authentic, I think that's when you do it from a place of integrity, which is the main difference.
You have spitting gems now. So let's wrap up with two things. One, the role of mentorship. We kind of glossed over that, like talking about how important parents were in life, but outside of the parents and the people in your networking community, when you think about mentorship, what role does mentorship play, and how can you benefit from it?
It's so important. I have been a mentor and a career coach for the University of Connecticut for 3 years. I'm starting my own mentorship program because, like I said earlier, life is a lot easier to go through when you realize you don't have to do it by yourself. And sometimes you need your person that's not mom, that's not your friend, maybe that's not your therapist to just talk to. They don't know you from a can of paint, but they have been in your shoes before, so they get it more than everybody else. When I started, I didn't really have a mentor, and I always wonder what I would have changed or done differently, or maybe how far I would be if I had one. Now I have some. But even still, it's more so like mentorship in a way that they're already in my support system. So if I do have a business question, or if I am leaning on them, that's like understood. But I still don't have like my designated mentors, which is a task for me to accomplish. But it's important. It's truly important. It can make all the world of a difference as far as being that guiding light. Google ain't gonna tell you everything. Google's not gonna tell you everything, and a mentor can help give you the confidence to take those leaps, and you're gonna take several in your journey.
Yeah. And I also think, in my life I had plenty of mentors formal and informal, and some of those formal mentors who've been able to, that I've been able to sit down with and they guide me. They've helped me skip some steps in the process
Exactly.
because they were able to introduce me to somebody or
Mm-hmm.
tell me, oh, don't do that, do this, because like that's good, but this is great, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I value mentorship because it'll save you years, especially if you're building something, right? It
Oh
doesn't even
yeah.
matter what you're building, like a business, um, a plane, a new bike, shoes. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why I said that, but anything you building, if you go mentor somebody who's been there and done it or done a version of it, it'll help you skip some steps. So I
Yep,
appreciate that you
for
bring that to
sure.
the
It'll
table.
buy you back time. It'll
Yeah.
buy you back time.
All right. So man, I feel like I could speak to you forever, but I don't want to make these episodes too long. We not like the Joe Rogan podcast. So as we wrap up, what piece of advice you like to give to aspiring Black entrepreneurs?
Keep going.
Mm,
That's it.
expand on that.
Keep going. I know it's hard. And you'll have moments where it's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. It's happening. Ah! And then you'll have that moment where it's like, now how the hell did I get here? And it'll be that season of time where you're like, is it even worth it at this
Right.
point? It is. Keep going, especially you if you feel in your, and not even in your gut, but like you can see and literally envision what you're going to become.
Mm, I love
Like
that.
you go to bed at night and you're like, wow, I'm going to be a millionaire. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but it's going to happen. And my life is going to look like X, Y, and Z. Like if
Right.
that fire never dies in you, even in the most discouraging moments, you have to keep going.
Right.
And I also think it's important to say in the same breath, if you're like, you know what, this is no longer for me, don't be afraid to pivot and back out.
Mm,
Don't be afraid to be like, you know what, I tried that thing. That's okay. And you're not a quitter for that. Let's reframe that.
right.
You're not a quitter
Right.
because you decided to be like, entrepreneurship isn't for me anymore. In
Right.
fact, you're like, I know who I am and what I'm
Mhm.
capable of, and it's not in this space. But I tried
Yeah.
it and I learned this. So now I can go into my next step doing X, Y, and Z even better as a
Right.
better version of me, but also producing a better work product because of the
Right.
skills that I've obtained from being an entrepreneur. I think it's important to encourage both paths
Yeah.
and be authentic at the end of the day, authentic and intentional about your time and who you are and, all
I
that
feel
good
like that's
stuff.
your word for 2024, authentic. So we're gonna keep it in that theme. So and I know I'm a pivot because I said that was the wrap up. But one more thing: what projects are you
Yeah.
currently working on, and where can people find you? How
Oof.
can people find you?
Yeah, so I'll start with the where they can find me. So my company's website, Brianna Régine Visionary Consulting, is brvisionaryconsulting.com, and all of our socials are connected on there. BR Visionary Consulting is our Instagram and Facebook. On LinkedIn, it's the full name spelled out. We might get back on Pinterest this year. We'll see what's shaking. Um, our podcast is coming back. The Brand Unveiled podcast is coming back. We're also continuing our Black Women Entrepreneurs of America campaign. We started that
Yeah.
last year. Yeah, it's dedicated to highlighting 50 Black women entrepreneurs in
Mm,
America and why. If you notice, it's taking a pause because I'm the one curating the entrepreneurs. And I'm doing that on purpose because I wanted to be intentional and I'm looking for people that don't necessarily have the biggest platforms or they have this amazing product and they're just looking to share more. So if you are a Black woman entrepreneur and you want to be a part of that campaign, we're doing social media shout outs. I'm doing pro bono consultations if you apply, and I'm doing podcast interviews. Okay. So we
mm.
still have some spots for all three of those guys. And then my personal platform, it's Brianna Régine across everything: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, I kind of use it. LinkedIn, Brianna Régine Walston. You can find me there. And then as far as what I'm working on, 2024 is a busy year. It's a busy year. I have some amazing clients and some great friends who are also my clients. So we have Black Wall Street Festival in Connecticut coming up in August, which is really exciting. I'm helping with
Right.
marketing, communications, and some operations support there. I'm working with a national organization to rebrand and sort of improve their messaging so they can serve more youth and put them on a path of, financial success, which is really great. I'm working with Celebrity Trailers, which is on Hulu right now. Big RV
Okay, I
remix
see you.
with Janice Faison, yes, and Big Boy from Outkast. So I'm working with her. She's my godmother. I love her dearly. So
Aw.
yeah, so I'm working with her to the show's going to air on a different network this spring, so I'm helping her with marketing communications for that. There's several things going on. I'm working with a nonprofit organization. They're doing a fundraiser in the spring. There's a creative workforce
Child, when do
summit in
you sleep?
Connecticut. Yeah, no, it's gonna be and those are only people on the roster for January. We're working with
Oh
the
man.
Smithsonian and their
Uh,
internship program. I'm blessed. I'm
glad.
blessed. Despite the challenges, I am blessed, and God continues to make a way for me every single time. Last year, when I
Love it.
really reflect, it's just like, wow, he is super real. Super real. Not only when you're going through hard times, but also when you're riding and coasting. He's real all the time. So yeah, it's a
That's
busy
true.
year, but I'm
But
blessed.
but 2024, we're gonna be intentional and make it happen. So,
Exactly.
man, I know one thing I'm trying to be intentional about. You have my interest piqued when you said you trying to highlight black women entrepreneurs. I'm about to go into my Rolodex and we're gonna talk, sis.
Please, please do, because there are some states. There are some states that are really hard, And I tried to tackle those first.
Yeah,
Because there's not like a big black population there, or because I'm only using the internet, right?
yeah,
Like it's hard to find like where they're at. So
yeah.
please, like I want to, that is a
I got
campaign
you.
that I definitely want to finish this year and see how else I can be of service and just give people an opportunity to share their stories and their gifts. And you
Yeah.
never know who it's gonna touch.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. I often say, the whole reason why I started this podcast is because when I used to go and public speak out at different high schools and had all this money to give to young folks to start different career pathways and then eventually
Mhm.
into entrepreneur, they the constant theme that especially inner city kids, they either wanted to be sports, a YouTube star, or play some type of be some type of rapper or something,
Yeah,
and I'm like, listen, this money's not for that. However, you can be adjacent to that career by going, and they just
right.
couldn't be what they couldn't see because it's not, they don't see many of us doing these different
Exactly.
things and living life on our terms. So I'm glad that they got to see you today, sis. And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm gonna get all her information, put her contact and links in the show notes. Thank you, Brianna, for such a insightful conversation. To our
Thank you for
listeners,
having me.
remember, every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Keep tuning in to Rise Urban Nation for more inspiring stories. Until the next time, stay motivated and keep rising. Peace.